Hi, good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. So, we're going to start off our discussions this morning by continuing to chat on the transition between one prime minister to a next. And this morning, to have that conversation, I have on virtually with me, actually, Mrs. Jennifer Baptiste Primus, former government minister. Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates.
Hi, good morning, Shenell. Good morning, Trinidad, and in particular Tobago. And good morning to my baby sister, Lucy Beverly, my niece, and my great niece who reside in Tobago. Thank
Excellent.
you for having me.
Right. Now, you have been very vocal about the process that has taken place in regards to the transition between one prime minister to a next. Now, we know earlier this week, the prime minister announced that he will be stepping down as prime minister and that the parliamentary caucus has selected unanimously Mr. Stuart Young, and he said that this will facilitate a smooth transition from one prime minister to a next. But from your perspective, this directly contradicts with the PNM's constitution. Give us an overall view of that.
May I call you? May I call you Chanel?
Yes, definitely.
All right, Chanel. The the established tradition in the PNM is that you identify your political leader, at least in the last few years, with the introduction of the one man, one vote system. The political leader is elected via the one man, one vote system by the broad based membership, each member having the right to vote. And having become the political leader leads the party into elections. And if God has blessed us with office on the last two occasions, the political leader immediately, automatically becomes the prime minister. But what we observe taking place is the procedure has been adopted is a back to front approach where the prime minister and the honorable prime minister and political leader has taken the decision that he will resign. And I mean, nobody in the PNM is pushing him out. We support him 1000% as our political leader. But he has taken the decision to resign and therefore to have Stuart Young, Honorable Stuart Young, appointed as the Prime Minister. And you and I know where that is today, that there appears to be challenges with that. My focus, however, is on the political leadership of the party. Because Dr. Rowley made two statements last Friday at the media conference in Tobago, where he signaled an intentionality, the intention to resign as prime minister. I mean, no one can stop Dr. Rowley for whatever reason or reasons he may possess for wanting to resign and leave politics. He would have served 45 years, and we are grateful and thankful for that. But he made another statement. He also stated that he will not be taking the PNM into the 2025 national elections. Now, that is, that was a shock, at least to me. That was a shock because if you are not taking us into the 2025 national elections, therefore, the next step to have been done is to trigger our internal constitutional processes by having a general council meeting and coming and putting the case before the general council and giving the general council, giving the party the breathing space and room to engage post haste in the process of electing a new political leader, because the party cannot be without a political leader, and therefore work with the organs of the party to ensure that when you leave in March, that we have a new political leader in place. It means, therefore, triggering the process means the general council meets, the general council receives the information, the general council would then be faced with taking certain decisions. For example, the decision to have the election supervisory committee reconstituted, because there was a committee in place, and when the annual the internal elections were cancelled last year by the honorable political leader and the leadership, the internal elections were cancelled and our annual convention were cancelled. But the election supervisory committee had done a heavy bit of work in that regard. So from my perspective, what is required is for the general council, in assessing the situation, would then have to reconstitute that committee, have that committee do its work, identify a nomination day and an election day, and also to schedule a special convention, so that the new political leader can be installed by the special convention before he demits office, or the day on which he demits office in March. So that that is my basic and fundamental concern.
Right. And Dr. Rowley
The
indicated that
process.
there would be a special convention in September. Can you tell us about that?
Well, Chanel, let me say this. The the constitution of the PNM recognizes the General Council as the second highest ruling body in the party. Article 12 of the Constitution, 1A states, the General Council shall be the governing body of the movement, and shall be responsible for its policy, organization, administration, and discipline. It shall have control of the units, constituents, and activities of the movement, and it shall report to the annual convention. Moreover, the Constitution recognizes, and that is in Article 17, the annual convention. The Constitution recognizes the annual convention shall be the supreme authority of the movement, and shall have the following rights and powers of duty, and that is to consider and formulate policies, etc. So that the Constitution recognizes two bodies: the convention, which is the supreme body, and the general council, the second highest ruling body, and then you have the central executive also. But the constitution also recognized that the leadership, the political leader and leadership of the party, and there is a premise that through this article, that the political leader can do whatever he wants, and that is not true, because Article 19, the political leader and deputy political leaders, one, states, subject to the provisions of this constitution. And Shenell, those are the operative words there: subject to the provisions of this constitution, the political leader shall be responsible to the party for the execution of its political affairs, and in the execution of this responsibility, he shall act in consultation with the chairman, vice chairman, lady vice chairman, and deputy political leaders, and the general secretary, who shall together comprise the political leadership of the party.
Right.
But you see,
And
before these powers and authority could be exercised, the Constitution says that in exercising these powers and authority, these are subject to the provisions of the Constitution. And the Constitution gives the General Council the sole right and authority to call an annual or special convention. So
Understood.
that the issue about a convention in September that I hear being touted, the General Council has taken no such decision.
Oh, understood. And at this time, do you think that going against the constitution of the party can cause a fracture internally prior to a major election?
Well, I'll tell you this. The situation that the PNM has found itself in is not of the making of the membership. But if the political leader has indicated the intention to resign, then he must know, and everyone must know, that that must trigger the process for the election of a new political leader. It cannot be an appointment. It cannot be, because you see, this party is now under the umbrella of the one man, one vote system. So in the past, when the delegate system was in place, then a political leader could have been appointed, and political leaders were appointed over the years. But that system has changed, so that any resignation of the political leader must be dealt with under the one man, one vote, where every single member has the right to vote for a leader of his or her choice.
So,
And
Mrs.
that
Jennifer Baptiste
cannot
Primus,
be.
just for clarity and just to be sure that we're on the same page, you're saying that with the resignation of Dr. Rowley, that should automatically trigger an internal election within the PNM.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But
And that is,
do you think
sorry.
understanding the internal dynamics of the party, Dr. Rowley is trying to avoid having any contentious issues internally before a major election?
But you see, Shenell, Dr. Rowley is the political leader of the PNM, and therefore he must know in submitting his resignation that will cause upheaval in the year of election. So then one has to ask the question, why?
But he was not
Why?
clear in indicating that he was resigning as political leader. He was more so very clear in indicating that he's resigning as prime minister.
But you see, how could you indicate that you want to leave the politics because you want to spend time with your family and your grandchildren, and all that is fine, but those reasons only apply to the prime ministership? It means, therefore, and moreover, you are not going to take the party into the 2025 elections. Who is going to take us into the 2025 elections? The party must have a political leader, and the political leader is that person who takes the party into general elections. So if Dr. Rowley is not taking us into an election, then he has a responsibility to ensure that we have a political leader who will do so. And therein lies my concern. Who, if you are not taking us in, then the proper thing to do is to indicate, work with the organs of the party, and let us identify, go into our process. Whoever wants to contest the position, contest the position. At the end of the procedure, whomever emerges as the preferred choice by the membership, then all of us have the responsibility to throw our 100% support behind that person.
And do you think that this is a way for Dr. Rowley to kind of put his mentee, I should say, before the actual process internally, knowing that Mr. MP Stuart Young may not command the majority support within the party? Do you think this is him somewhat manipulating the process?
Well, I have said that anything else that does not follow such a procedure, because such a procedure is the democratic procedure, and any procedure not following those footsteps is a manipulation of the constitution of the party. And I mean, Chanel, I feel very strongly about this issue because I feel very proud that upon joining the PNM, I was the person who, through the Coover South constituency, introduced the resolution for the introduction of the one man, one vote system in the PNM. And our political leader at this point in time, Dr. Rowley, we all voted resoundingly for him under the said one man, one vote system, so that any attempts to bypass or step aside that process, it is really an attempt to deny the members the right to select their own political leader, and that is wrong.
All right, understood.
I have
And we're gonna
always advocated for what is right. If something is
understood.
right, you will get my 1,000% support. But in this instance, it cannot be. It cannot be what is taking place.
All right, well, we're gonna take a quick break right here, and we're gonna be back right after this. So see you soon. Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, I have been chatting with Mrs. Jennifer Baptiste Primus, former government minister and PNM member. Good morning and welcome back.
Thank you, Shenell.
Yes, so before we left off before the break, you indicated that currently there seems to be a manipulation of the process that actually put Dr. Keith Rowley in office. But there are the persons that are saying this conversation should not even be in the public domain. These are conversations that should remain within the PNM party and are frowning upon your attempts to make this a public matter. How do you respond to those persons?
Well, Shenell, I observe many persons in the PNM, many persons in the PNM. I engage in a discourse of their perspective of what is taking place. So why is there this singular focus on myself? If something is wrong, something is wrong. And that is my focus. I have always advocated for what is right, and I am not the kind of individual to know that something is wrong, seeing that it is wrong, and not speak out against it. And interestingly, those persons who talk about PNM business PNM don't wash their dirty linen in public. They just have to go into the records of Parliament, and they can read on all the concerns that various members over the years, including our esteemed political leader, the statements that would have been made in Parliament concerning what was taking place in the PNM at that time. So I don't share their view on that. The history of the PNM has always been one where issues end up being in the public domain. And in this day of technological changes, information situations are reported on almost instantaneously. So I don't share their view. They're entitled
Okay,
to their
and
view in
and
that regard.
and moving forward, do you think that this could cause a level of victimization against you within the party?
Shana, let me just say, when I joined the PNM, I joined the PNM when the PNM lost the national elections in 2010. Now, as you would know, persons do not join political parties when they lose elections. They join political parties when they are in office, so that whatever benefit that they may have in their mind could be delivered. I joined the PNM. The PNM lost the election, would have been around May 2010. And I joined the party in June 2010 to work with Dr. Rowley to rebuild the PNM. So I did not go to the PNM looking for anything at all. So that I have not benefited from the PNM. It was never my intention. I did not go there for that. So I cannot, unlike others in the party, I don't think the tentacles of bad mind can reach me. I am beyond the reach of those tentacles, and therefore I can speak freely and fearlessly.
Understood. And moving forward, is the date suggested by Dr. Rowley, I believe it was September the 28th, that's the date that he suggested for the next PNM convention. Is that set in stone, or does that still have to be confirmed by the General Council?
All right. Now, the procedure has been one where the leadership will decide, sit and engage in discussion and take a decision. And they would come to the General Council. It must be brought to the General Council as a recommendation. That has not come to the General Council. The General Council has set no date for convention. But invariably, once the political leader comes with a recommendation, invariably the General Council would agree and go along. But I was taken aback when I heard about a convention in September, knowing that the General Council have not sat since October. So that I have no doubt perhaps on Saturday the recommendation will come to the General Council for ratification because it's out there in the public. But the General Council has not yet taken the decision. So I suspect a ratification will be placed before General Council.
Do you feel as though, you coming out and making your stance clear, do you think that you are basically giving information to the opposition that they can use against the party in the upcoming election?
What can they use? I didn't put the convention into the public domain. I didn't put a lot of the information in the public domain, but it's there. So how am I giving information or arming the opposition? I would reject any such notion.
Understood. And there is the idea that persons are more drawn to MP Penelope Beckles as being the political leader. And knowing this, this is why the transition was done in the way that it was done. Now we see that there was 11-9 vote in favor of Stuart Young. Do you think that these tensions could spill over a bit into the cabinet?
Well, I am no longer a member of the cabinet, so I cannot comment on what takes place there or not. But certainly, in any such given situation, I mean, people are human. Relationships may or may not be straight. I was not there. So I don't know what transpired. And I never comment on issues for which I am not armed with the full breadth of the information. So I will prefer not to comment on that situation as it plays itself out, no doubt.
And there are some persons who are feeling as though the process and the way things are going are a bit unfair to Penelope Beckles, seeing that she would have worked so hard within the party and was kind of postured by many persons as being their leader that they selected or they want to succeed Dr. Rowley. Do you also feel that she was treated a bit unfair in this process?
But you see, I was not there. I don't know what transpired. until excuse me, until I have the full breadth of information on what transpired, I would prefer not to comment.
All
So
right.
perhaps if the information is forthcoming on Saturday, I may be in a better position. But at this point in time, I am like anybody else in the public. I was not there. I don't really know what transpired.
Right. And if there are contentions that are looming based on what is happening in regards to this transition, what are you recommending to the party in regards to fixing any internal fractures going into a general election?
Well, I have indicated that my concern revolved around the political leadership of the party, where Dr. Rowley indicated he would not be taking the PNM into a general elections this year. And we have to have a political leader to take us into that election. So what my advice is that the General Council moves post haste to put in place the necessary mechanisms to ensure that an internal election is held and a new political leader emerges who would as Dr. Rowley demits office, the new political leader takes up office.
Understood. And so we want to thank you so much for your time this morning and bringing that level of clarity. Is there anything that you want to say to your fellow party members this morning as the PNM maneuvers through this period?
No, all I would say is that a constitution of a country, a constitution of an organization is a very sacred document. And therefore, we must all, as members, take that into consideration and be ever vigilant that the rights that are enshrined in that document are protected by our constant vigilance to ensure adherence to that constitution. And I pray that God would bless us all, and this year would be a year that would be beneficial to the interests of the citizens of this country, and that we all put our shoulders to the wheel to help take our country into the future.
All right. Well, we want
And I
to
want to
thank you
thank you very
again.
much, Shenell, for having me this morning. I hope that your day would be an enjoyable one.
All right. Same to you guys. We're going to take a quick break right here and we'll be back right after this. See you soon.